The United Nations General Assembly Hall is built for big moments. Presidents, kings, speeches that start and end wars. Its walls have echoed with the voices of history, with declarations that shaped the fate of nations. But on one crisp autumn afternoon, something different happened. Something that would be remembered not for its power, but for its quiet courage. It wasn't a world leader or billionaire at the podium this time. The stage was empty, waiting for someone unexpected. Instead, a quiet woman from the Philippines, Elena Reyes, took the stage. She walked with a calm determination, her steps measured and sure. The usual diplomatic buzz filled the air. Whispers, shuffling papers, translators murmuring in their glass booths, the low hum of international business as usual. No one expected what was coming. There was a sense of routine, of predictability. Until now. Delegates braced for another policy speech, but Elena brought something else. A message about the human heart, about hope and resilience. The day's schedule was packed with leaders touting economic growth and security, their words polished and distant, carefully crafted for headlines. Delegates were tired, distracted, ready for the day to end. Some scrolled through their phones, others stifled yawns, their minds already drifting elsewhere. Elena's introduction was brief, just her name and title, community organizer. No long list of credentials, no grand titles. As she approached the podium in a simple hand-woven blouse, confusion rippled through the hall. Who was she? Why was she here? She looked small behind the lectern, humble, unassuming. The vastness of the hall seemed to swallow her, yet she stood tall. The cameras zoomed in, revealing not a politician, but a person with a story. Her eyes held a quiet strength, a depth that drew attention. Some delegates leaned forward, curious. Others looked skeptical, unsure what to expect from this unfamiliar figure. They were used to data and strategy, not stories from the heart. Numbers and charts were their language, not emotion. The room quieted, anticipation building. The usual noise faded, replaced by a sense of something about to happen. For a moment, the world paused, sensing something different. It was as if time itself slowed, waiting for her first words. Elena stood ready, not to sell a policy, but to share a truth. Her hands were steady, her voice about to break the silence. The world was about to be reminded of something it had forgotten, a simple, powerful truth that transcends borders and politics. The hall held its breath, waiting for a story that would touch every soul in the room. Elena Reyes grew up in a small fishing village, her life shaped by the sea and the stories of her people. She never attended elite schools or worked in government offices. Her hands were calloused from rebuilding homes and planting crops. Her presence at the UN was a surprise, even to her. She'd never spoken to more than a few hundred people, never left her island for long. But she carried the stories of her community, knowing their power. Elena didn't look or sound like a diplomat. She approached the podium with a single folded piece of paper. In her mind, she saw not flags, but the faces of her village, children, mothers, farmers. She was there to speak the language of humanity, not politics. The contrast was stark. Elena, the ordinary person standing before the world's most powerful. The room fell silent, waiting for her to speak. Elena reached the podium, adjusted the microphone, and smiled gently. The room, filled with dignitaries and experts from around the world, seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her first words. She didn't start with formalities. There was no list of credentials, no grand introduction, just a quiet confidence that drew everyone in. Good afternoon. My name is Elena. I am not a president. I am not a queen. I am a neighbor. Her voice was steady, but warm, inviting the audience to see her not as a distant official, but as someone familiar. The word neighbor hung in the air, shifting the mood. It was unexpected, and it made people pause, reconsidering their own roles in the room. In my village, when a storm comes, we don't ask who you voted for before we help rebuild. We are simply neighbors. Today, I ask you to be my neighbor. Her words painted a picture of unity, of people coming together in times of need, regardless of differences. She unfolded a child's drawing, a small house, a big sun, a family holding hands. The simple image spoke volumes, a symbol of hope and togetherness. This was drawn by Maya, a little girl in my village. Last year, a typhoon took her home, but it did not take her family. It did not take her hope. Elena's voice softened, and the audience leaned in, captivated by Maya's story. When we talk about climate change, we are not talking about polar bears. We are talking about Maya and her dream of a safe home. She reminded everyone that the crisis was not abstract, but deeply personal for millions. The room transformed. Delegates put down their phones, translators listened intently. For a moment, the usual distractions faded away, replaced by genuine attention. Elena had made climate change personal, giving it a human face. She spoke not of statistics, but of lives, of dreams, of families like Maya's. She wasn't selling policy, she was sharing a story. Her words were not rehearsed slogans, but heartfelt truths that resonated deeply. The world was no longer a map, it was a neighborhood. Borders faded, replaced by the idea of shared responsibility and care. The delegates felt the shift. They looked at each other, realizing they were all neighbors in this global village, connected by common hopes and fears. Elena's words bypassed politics and reached their hearts. For many, it was the first time the issue felt so immediate, so real. For the first time, the hall felt united by something real. There was a sense of shared purpose, a collective understanding that change begins with empathy. The power of her message was undeniable. It lingered in the air, challenging everyone to see themselves as part of the solution. The world listened, not to a leader, but to a neighbor. Elena's approach was simple, yet it broke down barriers and built bridges, and the silence was profound. In that quiet, a new understanding was born, a sense that real change starts with seeing each other, not as strangers, but as neighbors. Elena's speech was a collection of stories, not statistics. She didn't recite numbers or charts, but instead painted vivid pictures of real lives, real struggles, and real hope. She spoke of Tomas, the fisherman who could no longer predict the sea, whose livelihood was threatened by changes he could not control, and whose family waited anxiously for his safe return each day. And Maria, the mother walking miles for clean water, her feet aching, but her determination unbroken, carrying hope for her children with every heavy step. She asked, "When a child goes to bed hungry, do we ask which country he belongs to? Hunger has no flag. Pain has no passport." Her words echoed through the hall, reminding everyone that suffering knows no borders. Her words cut through politics, reaching the core of shared humanity. The room felt united, if only for a moment, by the truth in her voice. She looked at the powerful and asked, "You can build walls or bridges. The choice is yours, and it shapes the future for all of us. But what are you protecting? Land or people? Are you defending lines on a map, or the lives that give those lines meaning? A nation is its people. Without them, borders are empty, and flags are just cloth." Elena challenged the definition of security, urging leaders to protect well-being, not just borders. She called for compassion to be the true measure of strength. The silence in the hall was deep and reflective. It was a silence filled with thought, not indifference. Her message was simple, honest, and new in its sincerity. It was a call to remember the faces behind the policies. She reminded everyone of their true purpose, to represent humanity, to serve not just their nations, but the world. For the first time in a long time, they listened. The usual debates and distractions faded away, the flags faded into the background, and for a moment, there were no borders, only people. Elena's stories became the room's heartbeat, uniting strangers in shared understanding and empathy. The world was reminded of what truly matters: kindness, dignity, and the courage to care for one another. The silence spoke louder than any applause, and the message lingered long after Elena left the stage, echoing in every heart. Elena continued, weaving stories instead of citing data. She spoke of a refugee boy with a worn photograph and a village nurse buying medicine with her own money. We talk about migration crises, but for this boy, it's just his life. He is not a statistic. He is a child who misses his mother. What good is a cure only the rich can afford? A life's value does not depend on the wealth of its nation. Her stories bypassed political defenses, creating empathy. Delegates became listeners, not just representatives. Elena's narrative approach was radical for the UN. She wasn't trying to win an argument, but to start a conversation about what really matters. She asked leaders to listen to the world's heartbeat. In the silence, they finally heard it. The hall was transformed by her words. The power of story triumphed over statistics, and the world listened. Nearing the end, Elena's tone grew firm. "I did not come here for pity. My people are not victims, they are survivors. I ask not for charity, but for empathy. Empathy," she explained, "is seeing the world through another's eyes. It is the most important tool of a leader, more than armies or economies." She challenged the assembly. "Your job is not just to manage your country's interests. You are caretakers of our shared home. Some rooms in our house are on fire, some are flooding. We cannot close our doors and pretend it's not happening. A fire in one room will spread to all. The cries of a child will be heard by everyone." Elena called for a new way of thinking, putting humanity at the center of politics. She asked leaders to lead with their hearts, not just their heads. The challenge was clear: move beyond nationalism to global responsibility. The message hit its mark. The room felt the weight of her words. Elena's call to action was simple, but profound, and the world was listening. Elena finished with a simple thank you and bowed. The hall was silent, no applause, just a deep, emotional stillness. Delegates sat in reflection, some wiping away tears. The applause, when it came, was a standing ovation. Raw, unscripted, united. They weren't applauding politics, but truth and courage. Even translators paused, moved beyond words. Elena had changed the emotional climate of the world's most powerful room. For a moment, there were no borders, only neighbors. Her message of compassion needed no translation. The world was united, if only for a moment. Elena's impact didn't end with applause. In the days that followed, the UN buzzed with new conversations about empathy, compassion, and purpose. Delegates referenced her speech, using her stories as a new framework. The video went viral, inspiring people worldwide. Schools and communities shared her message. Leaders announced new people-focused initiatives and funds. Elena became a symbol of hope, proving one voice can spark change. Her speech planted a seed for a new kind of global conversation. Elena's speech did more than inspire. It shifted how leaders saw their roles. Diplomacy became about protecting lives, not just interests. Her message of empathy became a guiding principle. Leaders began to ask, "Is this good for our world?" The Elena effect changed the language of diplomacy, making compassion essential. Her legacy was a change in consciousness, not just policy. She proved one authentic voice can be more powerful than 1,000 speeches. And she gave the world a new story, one of neighbors in a shared home.